Frankie here. Today I want to take some time and address a disgruntled viewer. Someone that heard me say something in my live chat, took exception with it, and then sat down and wrote me a very lengthy email about why I'm a total tool and I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to guns, and I'm totally wrong about what I said. What I said was, when I was responding to a viewer that was asking me, hey, I'm about to buy a GP100 as my EDC, should I get the 10mm or the 357 Magnum? I said, and I say this quite often, there's no reason to go down to a semi-automatic caliber if you're getting the Revolver. Get the 357 Magnum. And they took exception to this. The 10mm is as good in every way as 357, which it isn't. And I'm going to take a little time here today to demonstrate that. I'm going to tell you why I might be a total tool, but I actually do know what I'm talking about when I say 357 Magnum beats 10mm in a Revolver in every way. Because remember, in a Revolver, capacity is not the question. 10mm doesn't have that advantage of having like 20 rounds like it would in like a big Glock or something. So you're just looking at round versus round. And there is a capacity difference, but it leans in the 357 Magnum way. So let's look at two guns that are chambered in both calibers. If you look right here, I have a GP100 in both calibers. This one is 10mm, this one is 357 Magnum, and other than a slight difference in the barrel, they're pretty much the same gun. And I know this is where a lot of snarky people go, well, I thought you said buying 10mm revolvers was stupid. I didn't say it was stupid, I just said it wasn't the best choice or the smart choice, and I never said I was smart. So I own one of both. And I can tell you right now, objectively, the 357 Magnum in this same platform has every advantage. Now, the first advantage is power. Now, I know a lot of people like to think 10mm is as powerful as 357 Magnum, but it isn't. It just isn't. 357 has greater potential. It has a higher maximum load than 10mm. You can potentially get more out of it. And when you're buying ammo off the shelf, you can find 357 Magnum that's getting pushed out of that barrel at over 1,500 feet per second. Where if you look at the same grain weight, let's say 180 grain, like with the 1,500 feet per second over here, you're going to be looking at like 1,200 feet per second in this gun, and that's if you buy something really hot. So it's got an advantage. 357 Magnum is more powerful, it has greater potential, and it's easier to find it closer to that potential. With the 10mm, you're going to be lucky if you find something that powerful. And like I said, you're going to have to either hand load or go to buffalo bore because manufacturers just don't load it to its potential. 357 Magnum gets loaded out heavier. Manufacturers are more worried with the 10mm that it's going to be in semi-automatics that can't handle it. It's going to cause failures. So they load them down a bit, where 357 Magnum doesn't have that concern. So 357 Magnum is just more powerful. Now, some people will say, well, but it's almost the same. Well, I'm almost as good a basketball player as LeBron James. Almost can mean a lot. So when it comes right down to it, objectively, 10mm is just more powerful, more capable, performs better. Since it is a smaller bullet, different diameter, even though it's the same weight, it also penetrates a little better because of a smaller surface area. So it's just better, more powerful, more capable. Also, when you look at capacity, that's where the 357 Magnum has an advantage in revolvers. If you look at the ends of the casings, they look very similar. You're not going to see a lot of difference here. But that's because the 357 Magnum is rimmed. The 10mm is not. So when you actually look at the bullet diameter, the 357 Magnum is considerably narrower than a 10mm or a 40. And that means you can get more rounds in the gun. If you look at them here, the 10mm GP100 is 6 rounds and you can't get 7. 357 Magnum one is 7 rounds. So it has an advantage when it comes to capacity. Not only are you getting a more powerful round, a round with more potential and more performance, you're getting more of them. So that's kind of hard to argue with, that the 357 Magnum is superior there. Now, you can get as many 9mm in a revolver as you do 357 Magnum because they're very similar in diameter. But with 9mm, you're looking at a substantial power loss. So it's just not worth it. Now, I know this is where someone's going to say, but I can't handle 357 Magnum. I'm a frail little old lady, or I'm a 7-year-old. Well, in that case, you still buy the 357 Magnum and just shoot .38 Special in it. Or low-powered 357. You can run the whole gamut of power with the actual 357, whereas the 9mm is going to be very limiting. And it's going to limit how much power you could potentially have if you need it. So you'd still go with the 357 over the 9mm, even though it had the same capacity, because then power is not even close. Now, there is one time when I think it does make sense to get a 10mm revolver, or maybe a 9mm or a 40, but specifically a 10mm. And this is going to be the exception to the rule that kind of proves the rule. The only time it's smart to buy a 10mm revolver is if it's not your primary carry gun, if it's a backup gun. Now, I don't know of any real small 10mm guns that would be used well as backup guns, but I'm sure maybe they exist. And if they did, that's when they'd make sense. Like a J-frame 5-shot 10mm would make more sense than this big GP100 in my opinion, because this is more of a primary carry. If this was a backup, that would make more sense. Because if your primary carry gun is a semi-automatic, well, then it should be 10mm, because that's the best caliber for that. And if it is, well, then you got a magazine. So if that gun fails, something goes wrong, not only do you have your backup mag, but you have the mag from that gun, and you can use that to reload your backup gun when it runs out of ammo. And in fact, it makes a pretty good reloading source. If you carry a 10mm revolver anyway, I would say carrying a magazine to carry your extra ammo is actually kind of a good idea. It makes it real easy to reload. And that's a difference with also the 357 Magnum and the 10mm that I didn't mention earlier. Is with the 10mm, as you can tell when I'm reloading here, you're not going to have a lot of luck ejecting them because they are rimless. So you're going to have to use a moon clip. If you're not using a moon clip, well, then you're going to have a little trouble when it comes time to eject. But other than that, that's the one time it would make sense to go with the 10mm revolver, is if it's your backup gun to your primary 10mm semi-automatic. So that's the reality of it. That's a subjective look. The 357 Magnum is more powerful, has greater potential. It's easier to find rounds for the 357 Magnum that reach that potential. You get more rounds in the 357 Magnum over the 10mm, and it's way more powerful than the 9mm, so you wouldn't even consider it then. It's just better overall. It's just the better gun. And if you're weak and you need lower caliber rounds, 38 Special is still an option. So as you can see, 357 Magnum is better in a revolver than 10mm. That's not saying that there might not be one time when a semi-automatic caliber revolver makes sense, but it seems like that's more applicable in 9mm guns, because there are small 9mm revolvers that are made for backup guns, where I don't really see that right now for 10mm. But hopefully, maybe in the future, they'll make some small 10mm as backup guns, because that is the only time that it makes sense to get a 10mm revolver.